Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about the controlled substance ordering system and the security that's in place that allows for electronic ordering. First, just a little overview on controlled substances. Controlled substances are drugs that are regulated by the DEA in the US since the 70s. Anybody who orders any of these kinds of medications needs to have a DEA number from the DEA, which is just basically 2 letters and 7 digits. And if you're ordering narcotics or stimulants, which is pain meds or Adderall, you need to actually fill out what is called a 222 form. And you have to fill this out, and you've always had to mail it to your supplier, which can usually take 1 to 3 days, even if they get them as soon as they get it. This is an example of a 222 form, and so this actually has to be filled out correctly, or it will be voided and sent back to the customer. It's dependent on the USPS or FedEx, so if there's an issue with weather, there'll be delays in getting your drugs. It can get pretty expensive to mail these things if you need something next day. And if there's any issues with inventory, it can get delayed from this form being processed. So what the DEA decided to do is make an electronic system which they started out in 2003. And the DEA designs and regulates this system to allow for electronic ordering of these medications. And instead of having that paper form, they issue you a digital certificate, which when you place an order, you actually sign it digitally, and your supplier will actually keep this on record. So, because you have to keep these on hand for 2 years, which makes record keeping much easier. Now, how are these transactions secured? It's through this system called the public key infrastructure, which I will be getting to talk to next. So, what does the public key infrastructure do? It allows for confidentiality, authentication, integrity, making sure that the order's not hasn't been messed with, that you can't deny that you were the one that sent the order. It's provided by your supplier's supply chain management software. It's two parts, which is the public key, which is cryptography and the hash function and digital signature, and the second part is the infrastructure, which is the DEA's where they issue the certificates and the ordering system that you order your medications through. The next part is called hash function processing, and what hash function processing is it will take whatever your message is and it turns it into a fixed code size. So it makes it infeasible for anybody to decode it, because if they don't know what the original size of the message is, it becomes time consuming to decode that message if you do not have the algorithm that's used to make it. And right now, CSOS uses what is called SHA 256, which it'll change that message into a 256-bit character. The last part of this is the digital signature, which is not a signature like a written signature. When you send your message, the digital signature adds a bit of string that only the recipient can verify that you sent this message and no one else did. And whenever you use the private key to encrypt the message, it adds this signature. So, putting this all together, the sender orders their drugs through the supply chain management software of their supplier. That hashes that order, which changes it into that fixed 256-bit text. The customer uses their private key that encrypts the message. Next, the supplier receives that message. They use their public key to decrypt that message, and using their software, they compare the two messages, and if they are the same, then the order is accepted. The last part of the public key infrastructure is the infrastructure part, which is the certificate authority and the registration directory, which the certificate authority is the DEA, set up by the DEA. They generate the certificates and issue the public and private keys. They also publish the certificates to the registration directory, which is where the suppliers are able to verify the certificates. And they also set the standards for the certification process and the public key infrastructure. The second part is the registration directory, which they store and distribute the digital certificates and relay the information to the users. They also provide timestamps for recording of these orders. All right, so now you know why when you go to the pharmacy and with you're trying to get some medications and they say it's going to be a couple days. This is why it only takes a couple days instead of a week or two. And there are many benefits for this. It reduces the amount of paper use. It speeds up the transaction time since it's electronically. You no longer have to pay for the mail, so it lowers the transaction costs. And since you don't have to fill out the paperwork and worry about the paperwork, it proves the accuracy. And since it's all digitally recorded, everything is backed up securely. Thank you.